talking today about Rahu transiting Saturn. This was one I wasn't super excited about doing because usually the effects of transits are something that really jump out at me, or I already have a lot of examples. But this was one that I didn't. And Saturn's trickier, or this transit's trickier, because this is often a time when people quiet down. They're a bit more subdued, and they're not having little freakouts about their anger or their beliefs getting shaken, or their romantic life becoming dramatic, because the focus is on Saturn, which is about hard work, and a lot of times has the feeling that we're being suppressed in some way. And so, of course, I have to find a pure Saturn, a Saturn that's not conjunct any other planets that are gonna interfere with my interpretation, because every time you have a planet part of that conjunction, it'll change things. The other thing that can be tricky about transits is that when you're trying to figure out one, there's a dozen other transits going on, so you have to know how to separate the effects of those other transits from what you're looking at, so you can get an accurate interpretation. So anyway, what comes up when Rahu transits Saturn? Well, the broadest and most generic interpretation is that it's a period of hard work, and that's definitely true. But what I came to see in the lives of people is that the type of work that they became involved in was kind of more, in some cases it was grunt work. In a lot of cases it was work that involved serving people, particularly the people that are represented by Saturn, because each planet represents a different category of people, like the scholars, or the warriors, the athletes, the merchants. And so Saturn represents the elderly, the sick, the disabled, or the lame, and kind of like the poor people who the farmers too. So that was a theme that was really showing up strong in a lot of charts. I knew, so one person had worked in finance previously, and then the market crashed and she had to get a job as I'm forgetting the acronym, I think it's a CNA, but basically where she was working with the elderly, and not just working with the sick and the elderly and the potentially disabled. She was changing their bedpans. She was doing servant type of work. And when I talk to people about this transit, and I just kind of pick their brain, they don't know what transit I'm talking about unless I tell them later on, but they'll use words like humbling. The work was very humbling. That is like a key word for Saturn, especially Saturn type of work. And then another person said they felt like a servant while they were doing that work before the job changed. So it's just so awesome when you're talking to people who don't know what you're even looking at astrologically, and they don't know anything about astrology, but they're just feeding you these key words that are just so in alignment with what this transit would produce. I knew someone else who they had gotten a degree, and they weren't they were newly graduated. They couldn't find a job that went with their degree. So they were spraying weeds out in a field. That's a very Saturnian environment, out in the sun, spraying weeds, just that agricultural type of work. During the same transit, they worked at a hospital. So once again, they were back working with the sick and the diseased. Somebody else was on during a deployment. They had gone into the medical section. I know there's a better word for that. But they were putting people back together after they had gotten injured. So the lame. Definitely really hard work. And so, a mindset will usually develop during this time. And one thing I've seen is kind of like a scarcity mindset, because things can become scarce during this transit, especially if it's a pure transit and Saturn's not conjunct other planets there can be other transits making this not a scarce time, making it a time of financial growth, but it could be a time when you're forced to do with less. The other thing that happens is people start to think about age and mortality when Rahu is transiting their Saturn, because those things are coming into their life. They're seeing those things. They're seeing sick people, old people, people who, they just start thinking about, like, what am I going to do when I get to that age? Or, these are the problems that these Saturnian people face. And the other thing that happens is that they will start thinking, they always know that they don't want to be in the same place. So when Rahu's transiting Saturn, I always see people who they're not content with the type of work they're doing, unless the job changes during that time, maybe towards the end of it. But they know that the place they're in now, they want to elevate themselves out of it. They want to do something better. It's not one of those, it's not the type of work that you're inspired to do, that you feel fulfilled doing. This is service type of work. And Saturn is the planet that is the karmic planet, the planet that's most associated with our karmic debts, you could say. Even though the whole chart is a map of karma, but Saturn has that association. So when Rahu, which is so connected with fated events, crosses over Saturn, I really feel that this is a time period where people are paying some karmic debts. And that's why, the hard work or the service work really comes to the forefront, because it's about just getting rid of some of that karma that's been accumulated. I think I covered everything. This is, it's not usually a super standout time in terms of just this transit. Like, Rahu is said to give the effects of Saturn, and it's transiting Saturn. I don't feel like there's a lot of huge, big issues that this transit is causing. It's just more about doing some hard work and kind of like learning some things about yourself through that work, and mortality, old age, and things like that. So I hope this video gave you more clarity on this transit. Thanks for watching.